The bridge of the Imperial cruiser Dominance hummed with quiet efficiency as it moved through the dark void of space. Commander Vexthek stood at the center of the circular command deck, his four arms moving smoothly across holographic displays that floated in the air around him. His blue crystalline skin reflected the soft glow of the ship's instruments, and his large black eyes scanned the data streams with practiced ease. The Dominance was massive, stretching nearly 2 miles from bow to stern. Its hull gleamed with the silver and gold colors of the Zephyrian Empire, and rows of weapon ports lined its sides like the teeth of some ancient predator. For over 2,000 years, ships like this had kept peace in the galaxy through strength and superior technology. "All sectors report normal, Commander," said Lieutenant Clienth from her station near the front of the bridge. She was young by Zephyrian standards, only 300 years old, but her skills with the sensor array were among the best in the fleet. Her smaller frame and lighter blue skin marked her as coming from one of the inner system colonies. Vexthek nodded his approval. The outer rim patrol was usually boring work, but it was important. This region of space marked the edge of known Imperial territory where pirates and rebels sometimes tried to establish hidden bases. His ship and crew had been on patrol for 6 months now, checking shipping lanes and investigating anything that seemed out of place. "Any word from Imperial Command about our rotation schedule?" asked Tactical Officer Zindar. His darker blue skin and scarred arms showed he had seen combat before, probably during the rebellion of the outer colonies 50 years ago. "Another 2 months before we head back to base," Vexthek replied. "High Command wants us to sweep the entire sector before the merchant fleets start using the new shipping routes through this area." The bridge fell back into its usual quiet rhythm. Crew members moved between stations, checking systems and running diagnostics. The soft hum of the ship's massive engines provided a constant background sound that most of them no longer even noticed. Far away from the Imperial cruiser, in a completely different part of space, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the human exploration ship Liberty. The bridge was much smaller than the Dominance, designed for a crew of only 40 people instead of the 1,000 that served on the Imperial vessel. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He had spent 15 years in Earth's space program, first as a pilot and then as a commander of orbital stations. At 42 years old, he was considered one of the most experienced space officers humanity had ever produced, though by galactic standards he was barely more than a child. "How are we looking, Lisa?" Jake asked his chief engineer. Lisa Parker looked up from her console, pushing a strand of red hair out of her eyes. She was 35 and had designed much of the technology that made Liberty possible. Her work on the quantum fold drive had earned her 3 advanced degrees and the respect of scientists around the world. "All systems are running perfectly, Captain," she said with a smile. "The quantum fold drive is holding steady, and we should be ready to drop out of fold space in about 6 hours. Jake nodded and turned to his navigation officer. "Ryan, what's our current position?" Ryan Brooks was the youngest member of the senior crew at 28. His talent for three-dimensional thinking and complex mathematics had made him the obvious choice for navigation officer. He had been working with the new star charts for months, preparing for this historic mission. "We're right on course, sir. When we drop out of fold space, we'll be approximately 4 light years from Earth in the direction of the Centauri system. If our calculations are correct, we should be in completely unexplored space." The Liberty was humanity's first real starship, built with technology that had been developed in secret for the past 10 years. The quantum fold drive allowed them to travel faster than light by briefly shifting into a parallel dimension, where the laws of physics worked differently. It was revolutionary technology, though the humans had no idea that nothing like it existed anywhere else in the galaxy. Amy Chun, the communications officer, looked up from her station. She was 31 and spoke 7 languages fluently. Her job was to establish contact with any alien life they might encounter, using mathematical concepts and basic physics to build a foundation for communication. "Captain, I've been thinking about our first contact protocols," she said. If we do meet alien life, we should be ready to transmit on multiple frequencies and in several different formats. I've prepared packages that include music, mathematical progressions, and visual representations of our solar system. Jake smiled at her enthusiasm. The entire crew was excited about the possibility of meeting other intelligent life, though they knew the chances were small. Space was vast, and even with their new technology, they were still just a tiny ship in an enormous universe. Good thinking, Amy. Make sure everything is ready for broadcast as soon as we drop out of fold space. The Liberty continued its journey through the strange realm of fold space where normal time and distance didn't apply. Outside the ship's windows, swirling patterns of light and color moved in ways that hurt to look at for too long. The human crew had learned to keep the external cameras turned off during fold space travel, as the images they captured made no sense and sometimes caused headaches. Back on the Dominance, Lieutenant Client suddenly straightened in her chair. Her hands moved quickly across her console as she checked and rechecked her readings. The expression on her face changed from routine boredom to confused concern. "Commander," she called out, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty. "I'm detecting something unusual on the long-range sensors." Vexthek moved to her station, his forearms allowing him to access multiple displays at once. "What kind of something?" "It's a ship signature, sir, but it doesn't match anything in our database. The energy readings are strange. It's definitely artificial, but the technology doesn't correspond to any known vessel type." The bridge became more alert as other crew members turned to listen. Unknown ships in Imperial space were always cause for concern, especially ones that didn't appear in the registry of known vessels. "Distance and heading?" Vexthek asked. "Approximately 50,000 kilometers in closing, sir. Current trajectory puts it on a direct course for our position." Client paused, studying her readings more carefully. "Commander, there's something else. The energy signature is very weak, suggesting either a small vessel or one with primitive technology, but there are some readings that don't make sense." Zindar moved to his tactical station and began running his own scans. "I'm not detecting any weapons signatures, but at this range it's hard to be certain. The ship appears to be alone, no escort or support vessels in the area." Vexthek considered their options. Imperial law was clear about unregistered vessels in Empire space. They were to be stopped, identified, and either escorted to the nearest Imperial base or destroyed if they proved hostile. However, something about this situation felt different. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. "At current speed, approximately 2 hours, sir." "Very well. Continue monitoring and prepare a standard identification challenge. If they don't respond appropriately, we'll follow standard protocols." The Liberty was about to drop out of fold space, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams into a galaxy that had no idea they existed. In 2 hours, two very different species would meet for the first time, and neither had any idea how much their lives were about to change. Jake Morrison checked his watch and smiled at his crew. 30 minutes until we make history, people. Let's make sure we do it right." The Liberty dropped out of fold space with a gentle shudder that ran through the entire ship. Jake Morrison felt the familiar sensation in his stomach as normal physics took hold again and the swirling colors outside the windows faded to reveal the star-filled darkness of regular space. "Drop successful, Captain," Ryan Brooks reported from his navigation station. "We're exactly where we planned to be. All systems are operating normally." Jake nodded and looked around the bridge. His crew was alert and excited, knowing they had just become the first humans to travel so far from Earth. The moment felt historic, and everyone wanted to remember every detail. "Amy, start your scans for any signs of intelligent life," Jake ordered. "Lisa, how's our power situation?" "The quantum fold drive is cooling down as expected," Lisa Parker replied, checking her engineering displays. "We'll need about an hour before we can make another jump if necessary." Amy Chun began working at her communications station, using the ship's sensors to search for radio signals, energy patterns, or anything else that might indicate the presence of other intelligent beings. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child, imagining what it would be like to make contact with alien life. "Captain," Amy said after a few minutes, her voice carrying a note of excitement mixed with concern. I'm detecting a very large artificial object about 50,000 kilometers away. It's definitely a spacecraft, and it's much bigger than us. Jake felt his heart rate increase. They had hoped to find signs of alien life, but actually encountering another ship on their very first trip was beyond their wildest expectations. Can you tell anything else about it? He asked. It's massive, sir. Maybe 10 times our size, possibly more. The energy readings suggest it has very advanced technology, and it appears to be moving in our direction. Jake made a quick decision. Open a channel on all frequencies. Let's try to make contact. Amy's fingers flew over her controls as she activated the communication array. She began broadcasting the standard first contact message that Earth's best scientists and linguists had prepared. The message included mathematical sequences, prime numbers, representations of the periodic table, and even samples of human music. This is the exploration vessel Liberty from the planet Earth, Amy said into her microphone, speaking clearly and slowly. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other intelligent life. Please respond if you can understand this message. Aboard. The Dominance Communications Officer Telver received the strange transmission with growing confusion. The alien language was completely unknown, using sound patterns that didn't match any of the thousands of languages in the Imperial database. Even worse, the mathematical progressions used a base 10 system that seemed primitive and inefficient. Commander, Telver called out to Vexthik. The unknown vessel is transmitting on multiple frequencies. The language is unrecognized, but they're including mathematical concepts and what appears to be scientific data. Vexthik moved to the communications station and listened to a recording of the alien message. The sounds were strange, with soft consonants and flowing vowels that were very different from the clicking and whistling languages of known galactic species. Analysis? He asked. The mathematics are correct, but primitive, sir. They're using base 10 calculations and simple geometric concepts. The scientific data appears to be basic chemistry and physics. If this is their idea of demonstrating intelligence, their technology level is probably several centuries behind ours. Lieutenant Clienth looked up from her sensor station with a puzzled expression. Commander, I'm getting more detailed readings on their ship now. It's definitely small compared to us, probably carrying no more than 50 crew members. But there are some energy patterns I don't understand. What kind of patterns? Vexthik asked. There are traces of exotic particles around their hull, sir. The readings don't match any known propulsion system. It's almost like they've been exposed to dimensional energy, but that's impossible with their apparent technology level. Zindar studied his tactical displays and shook his head. No weapons that I can detect, sir. Their defensive systems appear minimal. If they are pirates or rebels, they're either very foolish or very confident. Vexthik considered the situation. Imperial protocol was clear about unregistered vessels. They were required to demand immediate identification and submission to Imperial authority. If the aliens refused to comply, the Dominants had both the right and the duty to destroy them. Telver, transmit the standard Imperial challenge. Demand their registration codes and order them to prepare for boarding. Telver activated the Dominance's powerful communication array and sent the message on the same frequencies the aliens had used. His voice carried the full authority of the Zephyrian Empire as he spoke in Imperial Standard. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Vexthik of the Imperial Cruiser Dominance. You are in violation of Imperial space regulations. Transmit your registration codes immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your vessel. Aboard the Liberty, Amy Chun received the alien response with growing alarm. The transmission was incredibly powerful, easily 10 times stronger than anything their ship could produce. The alien language was harsh and commanding, full of clicking sounds and sharp consonants that sounded distinctly unfriendly. Captain, Amy said, her voice tense. I'm receiving a response, but I can't understand the language. The tone sounds demanding, and the transmission power suggests they have much more advanced communication technology than we do. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't the peaceful first contact scenario they had hoped for. The alien ship was massive, technologically superior, and apparently making demands they couldn't understand. "Can you determine anything from the context?" he asked. "I think they want some kind of identification or response from us, sir. The transmission is being repeated every 30 seconds, and the tone is becoming more insistent." Lisa Parker looked up from her engineering station with concern written across her face. "Captain, I'm detecting energy buildups in the alien ship. It looks like they might be charging weapon systems." Jake's mind raced through their options. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and dealing with a species whose intentions were completely unknown. The Liberty had defensive systems, but they were designed to protect against space debris and radiation, not military-grade alien weapons. "Amy, keep trying to establish peaceful communication. Transmit our friendship message again, but add visual elements this time. Show them pictures of humans, our planet, anything that might help them understand we're not hostile." "Yes, sir," Amy replied, working quickly to modify their transmission. On the Dominance, the alien ship's continued broadcasts were beginning to irritate Commander Vexthek. The strange vessel had ignored 2 direct orders and continued sending what appeared to be random noise and primitive images. "Sir," Telver reported, "they're now transmitting visual data. It appears to show the aliens themselves and their home planet." Vexthek studied the images on his display. The aliens were bipedal with only 2 arms, covered in various shades of pink and brown skin. Their planet appeared to be mostly water with scattered landmasses. The technology visible in their images looked primitive but functional. "They look weak," Zindar commented. "Only 2 arms, and their body structure suggests limited physical capability. These can't be warriors." "Perhaps they're a servant species that has stolen this ship," suggested Clienth. "That would explain the primitive technology combined with the exotic energy readings." Vexthek made his decision. The alien vessel was clearly in violation of Imperial law, and their failure to respond to proper challenges left him no choice. "Zindar, fire a warning shot across their bow. Low power. Plasma burst, just enough to get their attention. If they still don't comply after that, we'll follow full Imperial protocol." The Dominance's weapons array came online with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. A single plasma cannon charged and fired, sending a brilliant blue bolt of energy past the Liberty's front section. Missing by less than a kilometer aboard the Liberty, alarms began sounding as the plasma bolt streaked past their ship. The energy discharge was so powerful it overloaded several of their sensor arrays and caused temporary interference with their communications. "They're shooting at us!" Ryan Brooks shouted over the noise of the alarms. Jake felt his stomach drop. As he realized their peaceful exploration mission had turned into a life-or-death situation. The alien ship had just demonstrated it could destroy them without effort, and they had no way to communicate their peaceful intentions. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's intercom. "We are in a first contact situation that has turned hostile. All crew members report to emergency stations immediately." Lisa Parker's voice came over the comm system from engineering. "Captain, that plasma blast created some kind of resonance effect with our quantum fold drive. The exotic particles are becoming unstable." Jake realized they were facing a choice that would determine not only their own fate, but possibly the future relationship between humanity and this alien empire. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, his mind racing as he watched the massive alien ship on the main screen. The warning shot had been clear enough. The aliens wanted something from them, and they were willing to use force to get it. The problem was that Jake and his crew had no idea what the aliens wanted. "Captain," Lisa Parker's voice came through the comm system from engineering, "the exotic particles from our quantum fold drive are becoming more unstable. That plasma blast somehow affected our dimensional field generators." Jake pressed the come button. "How long do we have before it becomes dangerous?" "Maybe 20 minutes, sir. After that, the field could collapse completely, or worse, it could explode and take us with it." Ryan Brooks looked up from his navigation console, his face pale. Captain, the alien ship is moving closer. They'll be within optimal weapons range in 15 minutes. Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He was responsible for the lives of 40 crew members, and he was about to make a decision that could determine whether humanity's first contact with alien life ended in friendship or disaster. Amy, any luck with communications? He asked. Amy Chun shook her head, frustration clear in her voice. Nothing, sir. I've tried every frequency, every mathematical concept I can think of. They keep sending the same message over and over, but I can't figure out what they want. Jake walked to the center of the bridge and looked at his crew. These were some of Earth's best and brightest people, and they were all looking to him for answers he didn't have. The alien ship was 10 times their size, heavily armed, and apparently not interested in peaceful communication. Sir, Ryan said quietly, we could try to run. The quantum fold drive is still partially functional. We might be able to make a short jump back toward Earth. Jake considered the option. It was the safe choice, the logical choice, but it would also mean abandoning humanity's first chance to make contact with alien life. Even worse, it might convince the aliens that humans were hostile and dangerous. No, Jake said firmly. We came out here to make contact with alien life, and that's what we're going to do. We just need to find a way to show them we're not a threat. Lisa's voice came through the come again. Captain, I have an idea. It's dangerous, but it might work. I'm listening. The quantum fold drive creates a dimensional field around our ship. If we could control the field collapse, we might be able to phase through their ship's hull without causing damage. It would demonstrate technology they've never seen before and prove we're not trying to attack them. Jake felt his stomach drop. Phase through their ship? Is that even possible? Theoretically, yes. The quantum fold drive works by shifting us into a parallel dimension where the laws of physics are different. If we time it right, we could briefly exist in both dimensions at once, allowing us to pass through solid matter. Ryan stared at her in disbelief. Lisa, that's insane. What if we rematerialize inside their hull? We'd be destroyed instantly. The calculations show it's possible, Lisa insisted. The exotic particles are already destabilizing our field. Instead of letting them collapse randomly, we could control the collapse and use it to our advantage. Jake closed his eyes and tried to think clearly. The plan was incredibly dangerous, but they were running out of options. The alien ship was getting closer, and their own systems were failing. What are the odds of success? He asked. Honestly, about 60%. But doing nothing gives us 0% chance of survival. Jake opened his eyes and looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. Amy Chun had stopped trying to communicate with the aliens and was now monitoring their approach. Ryan Brooks was calculating distances and trajectories. Even from engineering, Lisa Parker was waiting for his answer. All right, Jake said finally, we'll try it. Ryan, plot a course directly toward the alien ship. Amy, keep broadcasting our peaceful intentions right up until the moment we phase. Lisa, prepare the quantum fold drive for controlled collapse. The crew began working with desperate efficiency. They all knew they were about to attempt something that had never been tried before, something that could easily kill them all aboard the Dominance. Lieutenant Client watched her sensors with growing confusion. The alien ship had suddenly changed course and was now heading directly toward them at increasing speed. Commander, she called out, the unknown vessel is now on a collision course with us. They're accelerating rapidly. Vexthek moved to her station and studied the readings. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The alien ship was tiny compared to the Dominance, with minimal weapons and defenses. A direct collision would destroy the smaller vessel instantly while barely damaging the Imperial cruiser. Are they trying to ram us? Zindar asked from his tactical station. That would be suicide. Maybe they're trying to intimidate us, suggested Telver. Some primitive species think that showing bravery in the face of superior force will earn them respect. Vexthek studied the tactical display. The alien ship was still several minutes away, but their acceleration was increasing. At their current rate, they would impact the Dominance's forward shields in less than 10 minutes. Energy readings? He asked. Client checked her instruments. This is strange, sir. Their power levels are spiking, but not in any pattern one recognizes. It's almost like they're preparing to overload their entire power system. A suicide attack? Zindar suggested. They might be planning to detonate their ship when they hit us. Vexthik considered his options. Imperial protocol was clear about hostile vessels attempting to ram Imperial ships. He had the right and duty to destroy them before they could complete their attack. But something about the situation didn't feel right. Sir, Client said urgently, their energy signature is changing. I've never seen readings like this before. It's almost like they're generating some kind of dimensional distortion. The bridge of the Dominance became tense as the crew watched the alien ship approach. Several crew members suggested firing immediately, but Vexthik held his hand up for silence. His instincts told him there was more to this situation than a simple suicide attack on the Liberty. Jake watched the distance to the alien ship decrease rapidly. The massive vessel filled their entire forward view, its hull gleaming with silver and gold colors that seemed to shift and change as they approached. 2 minutes to contact, Ryan announced. Lisa, how are we doing with the quantum fold drive? Lisa's voice came through the CUM system, tight with concentration. Field generators are charging? The exotic particles are becoming increasingly unstable, but I think I can control the collapse sequence. Jake activated the ship's intercom. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to attempt a maneuver that has never been tried before. Hold on to something and prepare for dimensional phase shift. Amy Chun continued broadcasting their peaceful intentions even as the alien ship grew larger and larger on their screens. Unknown vessel, we are not attacking you. We are attempting to demonstrate our peaceful technology. Please do not be alarmed. 1 minute to contact, Ryan said, his voice barely steady. Captain, are you sure about this? Jake looked at the massive alien ship that now filled their entire view. He could see weapon ports and defensive systems that could destroy the Liberty 100 times over. But he could also see lights in what appeared to be windows, suggesting there were living beings inside who were probably just as confused and frightened as his own crew. Lisa, initiate quantum fold field collapse on my mark, Jake ordered. Ryan, maintain course and speed. Amy, keep broadcasting. The seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness. The alien ship was so close now that Jake could see details on its hull, strange symbols and markings that probably meant something important to the beings inside. 10 seconds to contact, Ryan announced. Jake took a deep breath. Lisa, mark. The Liberty's quantum fold drive erupted into controlled chaos. The exotic particles that had been building up for the past 20 minutes suddenly released their energy in a carefully managed cascade. The ship's hull began to shimmer and fade as it shifted between dimensions aboard the Dominance. Every sensor on the ship went wild as the alien vessel approached. The energy readings spiked beyond anything in the Imperial database, and the space around the small ship began to warp and twist in impossible ways. Commander, Client shouted over the noise of alarms. They're doing something to space itself. The dimensional readings are off the scale. Vexthik watched in amazement as the alien ship began to fade in and out of existence. Parts of it became transparent while other sections remained solid. The entire vessel seemed to be existing in multiple dimensions at once. Impossible, Zindar whispered. No known technology can manipulate dimensional barriers like that. The Liberty struck the Dominance's forward shields at tremendous speed, but instead of the expected explosion, something miraculous happened. The human ship passed through the energy barrier like it wasn't there, its hull flickering between solid and transparent as it phased through the Imperial cruiser's outer defenses. For a moment that seemed to last forever, the Liberty existed, partially inside the Dominance's hull. Crew members on both ships could see each other through the translucent barriers between dimensions. The silence that followed the impossible maneuver was broken only by the sound of emergency alarms on both ships. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, trying to process what had just happened. They had somehow passed through a ship 10 times their size without causing any damage to either vessel. All stations report status, Jake called out, his voice steadier than he felt. Navigation systems are offline, Ryan Brooks reported, his hands shaking as he worked at his console. The quantum fold drive is completely dead. We're running on emergency power only. Lisa Parker's voice came through the COM system from engineering. Captain, we have major problems down here. The controlled field collapse worked, but it burned out most of our primary systems. Life support is stable, but we can't make another quantum fold jump for at least several days. Amy Chun looked up from her communications station with excitement in her eyes. Sir, I'm receiving transmissions from the alien ship. The signal strength is much weaker than before, and the tone has changed completely. Jake felt a mixture of relief and concern. The fact that they were still receiving communications meant the aliens hadn't decided to destroy them immediately. But being stranded in space with damaged systems made them completely vulnerable. What's different about the transmissions? Cake asked. They're not demanding anymore, sir. The clicking sounds are softer, and they're sending the same message repeatedly, but at a much lower power level. It's almost like they're being careful. Aboard the Dominance, Commander Vexthek was dealing with his own crisis. The alien ship's impossible passage through their hull had caused massive power fluctuations throughout the ship. Emergency lighting flickered in the corridors and several critical systems had shut down automatically. Damage report, Vexthek ordered. No structural damage, sir, reported Chief Engineer Kyle Fuss, his voice filled with confusion. But the power grid is unstable. Something about that dimensional field disrupted our energy systems. We're running on auxiliary power while the main generators reset. Lieutenant Client stared at her sensor readings with wide eyes. Commander, I'm detecting the alien vessel approximately 10 kilometers behind us. Their power signature is very weak now, almost like they've lost most of their systems. Zindar looked up from his tactical station. Sir, I recommend we destroy them now while they're vulnerable. What they just did was clearly an attack, even if it didn't cause damage. Vexthek held up one of his 4 hands for silence. He was thinking carefully about what he had witnessed. The alien ship had charged directly at them, but instead of ramming or exploding, they had demonstrated technology that violated every known law of physics. No weapon in the galaxy could manipulate dimensional barriers like that. Telver, what's the status of our communications with Imperial Command? Vexthek asked. Still offline, sir? The dimensional distortion seems to have affected our long-range transmitters. We won't be able to contact headquarters for several hours. Vexthek made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of destroying the alien vessel while it was helpless, he chose to try to understand what had happened. Reduce power to our weapon systems, he ordered. Telver, transmit on low-power frequencies. Use the mathematical concepts they sent us earlier. Try to establish basic communication. Several of his crew members looked at him with surprise. Imperial protocol clearly stated that unknown vessels should be destroyed or captured, not engaged in conversation. But Vexthek had been in command for over 50 years, and his instincts told him this situation was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. Telver began transmitting simple mathematical sequences, starting with prime numbers and basic geometric shapes. He used the same frequencies the aliens had used earlier, but at much lower power to avoid seeming threatening on the Liberty Amy. Hyun received the alien transmission with growing excitement. Captain, they're using mathematics. Prime numbers, geometric progressions, even some basic physics concepts. They're trying to communicate with us. Jake felt hope begin to replace the fear that had gripped him since the warning shot. Can you respond? Yes, sir. I'll start with simple acknowledgments and build from there. Amy began transmitting mathematical responses, confirming each concept the aliens sent and then adding slightly more complex variations. It was the beginning of the first real conversation between humans and aliens in galactic history. Over the next 2 hours, both communication officers worked tirelessly to establish a basic language. They started with numbers and moved on to simple concepts like distance, time, and mass. Slowly, Painfully, they began to build a foundation for understanding. Lisa Parker had been working in engineering, trying to restore their systems while monitoring the communication attempts. She came to the bridge with a datapad covered in calculations and a concerned expression on her face. "Captain, I've been analyzing what happened during our phase-through maneuver," she said. "The energy readings I'm getting don't make sense according to everything we know about physics." Jake looked at the data on her pad, though most of it was beyond his understanding. "What do you mean?" "The alien ship's defensive systems operate on principles that shouldn't be possible. They're using some kind of energy field that exists in normal space and several parallel dimensions at the same time. When our quantum fold field interacted with theirs, it created a resonance effect that temporarily disabled both of our power systems." Ryan Brooks looked up from his navigation console. "So we accidentally proved that our technology is completely different from theirs?" "More than that," Lisa said. "We proved that our technology works on principles they've never seen before. From their perspective, we just did something impossible." Amy Chun suddenly looked up from her communications station with excitement. "Captain, I think I'm making progress." "The aliens just transmitted what appears to be a designation for their ship." "Based on the context, I think they're trying to tell us their name." Jake moved to her station. "What did they send?" "A series of sounds that roughly translate to dominance in their language. I think that's the name of their ship. I'm going to try to transmit our ship's name in response." Amy carefully constructed a transmission that included the phonetic sounds for liberty along with mathematical representations of the concept of freedom. She sent it on the same frequency the aliens had used aboard the Dominance. Telver received the human response with growing understanding. The aliens were clearly intelligent, and their mathematical skills were more advanced than initial scans had suggested. They were using concepts that showed a sophisticated understanding of physics and engineering. "Commander," Telver reported, "I believe the aliens are trying to tell us their ship's designation." "The sounds they transmitted, when translated through our linguistic computers, suggest something like Freedom Vessel or Liberty Ship." Vexthek considered this information. A ship named for freedom suggested these aliens might be rebels or refugees, but their technology was unlike anything used by known rebel groups. The dimensional manipulation they had demonstrated was beyond even the most advanced Imperial research. "Ask them where they come from," Vexthek ordered. "Use star charts and mathematical representations of stellar distances." Over the next hour, the two communication officers engaged in an increasingly complex conversation. The humans transmitted information about their solar system, showing the position of Earth relative to nearby stars. The aliens responded with data about the Galactic Empire, indicating the vast scale of their civilization. Jake watched Amy work with growing amazement. They were actually talking to aliens, sharing information about their respective species and civilizations. It was everything he had dreamed of when he joined the space program. "Captain," Amy said, "I think I understand something important. Based on their transmissions, these aliens are part of a massive galactic empire that has existed for thousands of years. But they seem to be as surprised by our technology as we are by theirs." Lisa Parker had been monitoring the exchanges from her engineering station. "Sir, there's something else. The energy patterns I'm detecting from their ship suggest they don't have anything like our quantum fold drive. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's based on completely different principles." Ryan Brooks looked up from his navigation console where he had been plotting star charts. "Captain, if their information is accurate, their empire spans hundreds of star systems. Earth is apparently located in what they consider unexplored space." Jake felt the weight of what they had discovered settling on his shoulders. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and they had just made contact with a civilization that spanned the galaxy. But more importantly, they had demonstrated technology that these advanced aliens had never seen before. "Amy, can you ask them about their intentions?" Jake said, "Are they planning to destroy us, or are they willing to continue talking?" Amy worked carefully to construct a message that would convey the concept of peaceful intentions versus hostile actions. She used mathematical representations of cooperation and conflict, Hoping the aliens would understand, the response came quickly, and Amy's face showed relief as she translated it. Captain, they're asking the same question about us. The meeting point between the two ships was a small airlock that the aliens had extended from their massive vessel. Jake Morrison stood in the Liberty's docking bay, wearing his best dress uniform and carrying a small device that Amy Chun had quickly programmed to help with translation. Are you sure about this, Captain? Lisa Parker asked through the comm system. We still don't know if we can trust them. Jake adjusted his equipment belt and checked his oxygen levels one more time. We've come this far, Lisa. If we're going to build a relationship with these people, someone has to take the first step. Amy Chun was monitoring communications from the bridge. Captain, they're confirming that their representative is also ready. Based on our conversations, I think they've chosen someone with authority to make decisions. Jake nodded and moved toward the airlock. Through the small window, he could see the alien docking tube extending toward their ship. It was made of the same silver and gold material as their vessel, and strange symbols glowed along its surface. Remember, Amy's voice came through his earpiece. They communicate using clicking sounds and hand gestures. The translation device will help, but try to speak slowly and use simple concepts. The airlock cycled through its sequence, and Jake stepped into the alien docking tube. The gravity was slightly different, and the air had a strange metallic smell. Lights in the walls pulsed in patterns that seemed to respond to his presence. At the far end of the tube, another airlock opened, and Jake got his first close look at an alien being. Commander Vexthek stood nearly 7 feet tall, with blue crystalline skin that reflected the light in beautiful patterns. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he operated controls, and his large black eyes focused on Jake with obvious curiosity. Human. Jake Morrison, Vexthek said, the translation device converting his clicking speech into English. I am Commander Vexthek of the Imperial Vessel Dominance. You are welcome aboard. Jake stepped forward and held out his hand in the traditional human greeting. Thank you, Commander. I'm honored to meet you. Vexthek looked at the extended hand with confusion for a moment, then carefully reached out with one of his 4 hands to grasp it. The alien skin felt warm and smooth, almost like polished stone. Your species performs touching rituals for greeting? Vexthek asked. Yes, it's called a handshake. It shows trust and peaceful intentions. Vexthek nodded, a gesture that apparently meant the same thing in his culture. Please follow me. I have prepared a meeting space where we can speak safely. They walked through corridors that were much larger than anything on the Liberty. The walls were covered with displays showing star charts, technical diagrams, and what appeared to be status reports from across the galaxy. Jake realized he was seeing the operations center of a civilization that controlled hundreds of worlds. The meeting room was circular, with a table that could accommodate beings of different sizes and body types. Vexthek gestured for Jake to sit in a chair that had been adjusted for human proportions. Before we begin, Vexthek said, I must ask you a direct question. What your ship did today, the passage through our hull, is that a weapon? Jake shook his head firmly. No, Commander. Our quantum fold drive is designed for transportation, not combat. We used it that way because we had no other choice. We thought you were going to destroy us. And we thought you were attacking us. Vexthek replied. It seems we both misunderstood the situation. Jake leaned forward. Commander, my people sent me on this mission to explore space and hopefully make contact with other intelligent life. We never expected to find a galactic empire, and we certainly never intended to threaten anyone. Vexthek studied Jake carefully. Your technology is unlike anything in our database. The Empire has records of every known species and their capabilities. What you demonstrated today should not be possible according to our understanding of physics. Our scientists developed the quantum fold drive by studying parallel dimensions, Jake explained. We discovered that the laws of physics work differently in other dimensional spaces. By shifting between dimensions, we can travel faster than light and apparently pass through solid matter. Parallel dimensions, Vexthek repeated, his translator working to convey the concept. Our greatest scientists theorize about such things, but we have no practical application of the concepts. Jake realized he was in a position to make history. The decisions made in this room could determine whether humanity became part of the galactic community or was seen as a threat to be eliminated. Commander, what would it take for my people to have peaceful relations with your empire? Vexthek was quiet for a long moment, his four hands moving in what Jake guessed were thinking gestures. That is a complex question. The Empire maintains order through technological superiority and strict control of advanced technologies. Your quantum fold drive represents a completely new form of technology that could upset the balance of power in the galaxy. We're not interested in upsetting any balance, Jake said quickly. We just want to explore space and learn about other civilizations. We're willing to share some of our knowledge in exchange for the chance to join the galactic community. Share your knowledge? Vexthek seemed surprised by this concept. Most species guard their technological secrets carefully. You would be willing to teach others how to build your dimensional drive? Jake thought carefully about his answer. Not the complete technology, but perhaps some of the basic principles. Our scientists believe that knowledge should be shared to benefit everyone, not hoarded for advantage. Vexthek stood and walked to a large window that showed the stars beyond. Human Jake Morrison, you may not realize the significance of what you are suggesting. The Empire has maintained peace for 2,000 years by ensuring that no single species or group can challenge Imperial authority. Your technology could change that. It doesn't have to, Jake replied. What if we worked together? Human science combined with Imperial engineering could benefit everyone in the galaxy. You would trust us with your most advanced technology? If you would trust us with yours, Jake said. We're not looking for military advantage or political power. We just want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Vexthek turned back to face Jake. I will need to discuss this with my superiors, but I believe there may be a way forward. The Empire values technological advancement, and your dimensional research could open new possibilities for scientific development. Jake felt hope growing in his chest. What would you need from us? A demonstration of your peaceful intentions and a guarantee that your technology won't be used against Imperial interests. In return, the Empire could offer your species protected status and access to galactic trade networks. I think my government would be very interested in that arrangement, Jake said. But I have to ask, what if other species in the Empire don't want humans to join? What if they see us as a threat? Vexthek made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Human Jake Morrison, after what your small ship did to my much larger vessel today, I think most species will be more interested in learning from you than fighting you. Jake stood and extended his hand again. Then let's work together to make this happen, Commander. Vexthek grasped Jake's hand with two of his four hands. Agreed, but first I must ask you to accompany me to the Imperial capital. The Council of Species will want to meet you personally and see a demonstration of your technology. How long would that take? Several months, depending on how quickly your ship can be repaired. The journey to the capital requires multiple fold space jumps using our dimensional gates. Jake thought about his crew waiting on the Liberty and the people back on Earth who were probably wondering what had happened to their exploration mission. I'll need to communicate with my ship and my government, but I think this is exactly what we were hoping to accomplish. Amy Chin's voice came through Jake's earpiece. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're asking for a status report. Jake smiled at Vexthek. Commander, would you be interested in meeting the rest of my crew? And perhaps we could arrange for you to speak directly with the leaders of my world. That would be most appropriate, Vexthek agreed. The Empire values proper diplomatic protocols. As they walked back toward the docking tube, Jake realized that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy was about to discover that the small blue planet on the edge of known space had developed technology that could revolutionize interstellar travel. Commander, Jake said as they reached the airlock, I have a feeling this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership. Vexthic's translator converted his response. Human Jake Morrison, I believe you are correct. The galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. Back on the Liberty, Amy Chun was preparing the most important transmission in human history. She would have to find a way to explain to Earth that they had made contact with a galactic empire, demonstrated impossible technology, and potentially secured humanity's place among the stars. Lisa Parker was working with alien technicians to repair their quantum fold drive, sharing basic principles of dimensional physics while learning about imperial engineering techniques.